All right, welcome back to another episode of Usapang Musiko Season 2. And yeah, for today's episode, I got a nice topic for everyone. No? Um, this is a great thing to understand for a lot of people because, you know, a lot of newcomers and left-handed people tend to be uh, persuaded that when you're left-handed and you're a violinist, it's harder for you. Like it becomes harder for you to just be able to learn it the proper way. And people think that okay, I need a left-handed violin in order for me to play the violin properly. But coming from a left-handed violinist, let's try to actually talk about some of the things that you could expect that would happen to you and actually understand if it's really a burden or is it really hard to play the violin as a left-handed person, because we need to talk about these things because a lot of the input I'm seeing online about this topic comes from people without that much experience in playing the violin in the first place. So let's talk about this from a perspective of someone who has played the violin almost all my life. Okay, so let's talk about first me being left-handed. So I've been writing and using my left hand as a dominant hand ever since, no? And I would say that I am left-handed in most of the things that I do, but there are times that I use my right hand as a dominant hand. For example, when eating, uh, I use my right hand. I'm right-handed when I eat. I write with my left hand and do most of the things with my left hand. And yeah, but basically it's I'm still left considered left-handed because it's still my dominant hand. I still favor my left hand over my right hand. And they say a lot of left-handed people are more creative, no? I can't really say about that because I know left-handed people who are also analytical, that use the right side of the brain or something like that. And yeah, uh it's pretty common now to see a lot of left-handed artists because they say that the left-handed people are creative. So why would it be a reason not to tackle something creative like playing a musical instrument in the first place, no? I mean, if you think about it as a disability or a handicap, of course your mindset will be different. But if you don't actually think about how it will affect your playing, as long as you don't have an injury with your hand, regardless if you're left-handed or right-handed, I don't really recommend you guys to try out playing a left-handed violin if you haven't tried to learn the instrument the normal way. No, it's not the right way. But yeah, pun intended there. Okay, so I think the most logical thing of buying a left-handed violin is if you really can't use your right hand uh for bowing. That's the only time you could use a left-handed violin. If you don't have a left hand, or if you have a disability with your left hand, I guess that's the only uh possible reason why you should be playing a left-handed violin, because it's not just switching strings and changing the chin rest the other way. You have to consider that the inner workings of the instrument needs to be changed as well. So it's not just swap strings and swap a chin rest and it's good to go. No, because the body of the violin was made in such a way that the strings are properly put on with regards to the weight that they give and the tension that they have. So if you just put your E string to the G string line, you might just break your instrument. So you have to understand that it's not as easy as changing the strings backwards. I don't know if it's the same with the guitar because I'm not really a guitarist, but we see a lot of guitarists play left-handed. I don't know why the reason is, but to each his own. But the thing is, it's hard for a violinist to just switch to a left-handed one, especially if you, it's hard to look for one. That's one thing. And of course, if you're gonna play in an orchestra, of course your bowing will be different from everyone else, and that's gonna be a big problem for you. Okay, so as long as you can, as much as possible, stick to the right-handed violin. I don't want to call it a right-handed violin because the violin works with both hands. Okay, let's understand that it's not made for right-handers, it's not made for left-handers. It's just, it is what it is already. Okay, and then we try to understand, why are people telling us that it's harder for left-handers to play the instrument, that there's a handicap going on, that it's going to be harder for you? Because for me, I see the logic like this. Because they see that the right hand does a lot of the work, because the right hand technically is your bow hand, and of course it needs a lot of control. So I totally understand why they think it would be harder for uh left-handed people to control the bow, because the bow controls almost 85 to 90% of everything that you're playing. So I totally understand, but it's not the case for playing the instrument. Why? Because even if you're right-handed, when was the last time you only moved your forearm, or when was the last time you did the bow stroke motions before holding the instrument? Zero, right? No one does that. No one does the motions that you're doing with your bowing if you're not gonna play a bowed stringed instrument, right? These movements, pronation of the hand, maybe opening doorknobs, but you know, there's a lot of things that you don't do, even if you're right handed, that you will do when you play the violin. And with that, it's the same. We're all in an even playing field if that's the case, because you're not doing it before, whether you're left-handed or right-handed, which means you can train your body to be able to do it. And that's the most important part of about playing an instrument. You train your muscles to do things that they haven't done before. And that's the thing. If you can learn something, because the use of your right hand is for the bow, and it doesn't mean that you have control over it if you're using it daily in other tasks, because all the movements are going to be new. And I don't think it would matter if you're left-handed or right-handed to control the bow, because again, you never learned those movements, those motions that you're going to use in playing. So we're all in an even playing field. Even though you know how to control your right hand better if you're right-handed, but the thing is, you don't know still how to really work the bow. And with proper guidance and proper understanding of how it works, you I think you won't be able to notice which one's left-handed or which one's right-handed. Or it would be great training for someone right-handed to be more ambidextrous. Can we call it that? I don't know. But to be able to have more control with the right hand on bowing is not the same as practicing writing with your right hand. Because there are more nuanced movements. Both of them require certain skills to understand, to for them to work. But the thing is, if you teach something to your right hand, it will do it. Of course, it's not going to matter because again, you're starting from zero. You're not doing any of those motions, even if you're right-handed, even if I'm left-handed. Okay, goes the same way goes to the left hand. When you hold the violin, for example, when was the last time, if you're not a violinist, when was the last time you put your hand up like so? When was the last time you did that with your left hand? Even if you're left handed or right handed, you won't do these motions, these movements, if you don't play the instrument. So it won't matter whether you're left handed or right handed when it comes to the skills or techniques. No, this basically speaking I'm speaking objectively, not about your creative process or how your brain thinks, but just on the surface level, because that's how you begin something. You have to understand it on the surface, right? And then you go deeper. So the only thing is there's no advantage or disadvantage whether you're left-handed or right-handed. Of course, maybe you have more control in the beginning. If you're right-handed, you have more control on your bow. And if you're left-handed, you have more control on your violin hand. But in the long run, if you're training both muscles, all those muscles, and you're training for the skills, and you're training your head to be able to do those things, I don't think it will matter if you're left handed or right handed. So it doesn't matter if you can write with your right hand or write with your left hand. What matters is how much work you put in. So if you are left-handed would like to try the instrument, don't bother getting a left-handed instrument because again, the violin wasn't made for right-handed people. It was made for everyone. And it shouldn't be a case of, oh, I'm left-handed and it's going to be harder for me. No. I've been left-handed my whole life. It didn't affect the way I learned the instrument because again, it doesn't matter that much. Because you're training. When you're training your muscle, whatever muscle that may be, if you understand how it works, how it was going to help you in the long run, it will work out all right. But of course, you need proper training, proper guidance from wherever or whichever mentor you have. They have to understand. But if you have injuries, deformities, or disabilities with regards to your use and control of your hands, I think that's one thing to consider. If maybe you really can't use your right hand for bowing, of course get a left-handed violin or something like that. But if it's just a case of you being left-handed, there's not much debate going on, especially with professional musicians. No, I think it's important also that you check who you're asking, especially in these types of situations. Because if you ask someone who was just learning it for like 2 months and they're left handed and they're having a hard time, it's not because you're left handed, it's just because you don't have much skill yet. It takes time to learn something. And if you're gonna use being left-handed as an excuse for you not to learn anything, you won't get to enjoy life, no? Because it's not a disability, it's not a handicap, it's not something that you could say will hinder your growth as a musician or whatever field you're in. Because you can control what your body does, no? You're just favoring one hand over the other doesn't mean that the other hand won't work. I don't know if it's because I've already been playing for so many years, but I can also now write with my right hand. I know I don't consider myself ambidextrous, but yeah, I've been eating with my right hand ever since I was a kid. And also I can write. But the thing is it's not that good. But my left hand penmanship isn't good either. So either way, they're both ugly anyway. But the thing is, I think if you just follow someone knowledgeable, it doesn't matter whether you're left-handed or right-handed because the control here you need a lot more control on your left hand. And a lot of right-handed people can still play. It's the same logic. That's why I really can't say that if you're left-handed, you won't be able to play, because I think it is an advantage, because intonation's hard, and being able to understand your left hand more can help out in your intonation. No, and bowing is hard. Don't get me wrong. Again, bowing is 85-90% of all the work. So it's not the easiest thing as well. So you have to make sure your left hand knows what it's doing, your right hand knows what it's gonna do, and mix it up together. And that's the thing about the violin. It's not a one-handed instrument, to say the least. So you really need two hands. No, you really need that type of understanding of how your instrument will work. Because if you don't, it's gonna be hard for you to learn anything, especially in bowed stringed instruments. No, not just in violin, in cello, in viola, in double bass. They operate with both hands, but the thing is, your left hand does something that your right hand doesn't know how to do. And that's the thing. You have to understand that. And if you consider yourself left handed and you're afraid to try the instrument, don't be. My advice to you is get an instrument, get a good teacher, and then learn it. Because it's never gonna be about you being left handed that's gonna hinder your progress. It's just how you take it in. It's not because you prefer to use your dominant hand, is it gonna uh, make your progress slower? Maybe, but it's still here in your head. What you need to do, you have to understand those things. So don't use being left handed as an excuse not to try things out. Not just in violin, but in life in general. And I'll leave you here on this episode of Usapang Musiko Season 2. We're on our 34th episode. And yeah, check me out on Sessions Live. And of course, my course on Udemy is still available. Check it out. And my album is also out on major music platforms. Follow me on all my socials. And this podcast is brought to you by Anchor. Check it out on all major podcast platforms. And I will see you on the next episode. Take care.